Trying to stay healthy can seem like a full-time job sometimes, especially with all the conflicting information that's out there. But I'm here to make that job a little easier. Welcome to the Nutrition Facts Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Greger. Today we answer a wide variety of your questions, like the best way to eat on a budget, whether or not vegan shampoo is worth it, and some clever ways to get your daily dose of iodine. First question is by Aqua Pumpkin. With a name like Aqua Pumpkin, it's got to be good. Hello, doctor. Is there any real proof that the idea of not combining fruits with other foods like grains in a single meal, Ayurveda says to eat fruits alone? Not only is there no real proof, there's no proof, period. Real or unreal. You think about, how does that make kind of evolutionary sense, biological sense, that we'd have to somehow eat fruits different than, anything else? I'm constantly amazed by some of the tremendous wisdom in traditional medical systems. So, for example, there was a recent Nobel Prize awarded for the discovery of of wormwood for malaria. There's a malaria treatment, goes back thousands of years, mentioned in ancient Chinese medical texts, and now it's like still one of the most popular uses in the world is derived from this particular plant. And it's like, wow, how'd they know that? How'd they know back then? That's amazing. All right. At the same time, you have things like in Ayurveda, where they were giving people heavy metals, literally mercury on purpose, lead on purpose. In fact, heavy metals, toxic heavy metals, are used in many traditional medical systems around the world, which we now know is just we're poisoning people. So there's tremendous wisdom, but you can't know if whether the wisdom is wise or dangerous unless you put it to the test. That's what we have science for, but it's definitely worth going back to look at some of those traditional therapies to see if there's actually anything there. Anyway, long-winded answer. Let me see if I can do quicker next time. Alan says, someone's eating on a budget. Only has $100 to spend on groceries each week within a month. What are the main food items to buy? Oh, well, there's wonderful resources out there. One of my favorites called Plant-Based on a Budget, where I think they have like $4 a day eating. So forget your $100. How about $28 a week? And so, think some of the healthiest foods are actually some of the cheapest foods, like sweet potatoes. Oh my God, one of the healthiest foods on the planet, one of the cheapest foods. Red cabbage, dried beans and peas, lentils, right? Literally dirt cheap. Oh my God. And you can make massive amounts of food. You can bulk cook it like I do. What was I just? I was doing black soybeans yesterday, because a tablespoon of black soybeans a day significantly decreases LDL cholesterol. It's part of my, I got it here actually. In my book that came out in October on lowering LDL cholesterol with diet, and that's one of the natural approaches. It's a single tablespoon of black soybeans a day. So you just batch cook a whole bunch, and you put it in a little silicone kind of baby food trays, keep it in the freezer, pop it out, put it in any meal. I had run out, so I just made some more. I was going to make more of my probiotic mix of barley groats, oat groats, beluga lentils, and rye groats. But ran out of purple barley. And ran out of lentils. I thought I had them. In fact, online, I look at my order history. I bought them. I just don't know where they are. I searched through the pantry. Anyway, just bought some more lentils. But I will be making that soon. Anyway, but all super, super cheap. All right, next up. This is from Video 1,000 Nights. What do I think of no salt, no oil, no sugar, or flour? I assume that means flour. Too restrictive or not? No, wonderful. Yeah, we shouldn't be adding added salt. Right? We should get all our nutrients from whole food sources. So whole food sources of fat, not oil. Whole food sources of sugar, like fruit, sweet potatoes, and whole food sources of fat, like nuts, seeds, avocados. And instead of flour, instead of powdering our grains, we should eat groats, or at least whole grains. So yeah, I love it. Do it. Go for it. Keep up the good work. All right, Alexander is back. I guess if you get out early, put all your questions in, you have more chance of getting them answered. That's awesome. Okay. Alexander eats 150 grams of nuts and seeds a day. especially walnuts, almonds, flax seeds. We do love walnuts, probably the healthiest nuts, although, yeah, flax seeds probably the healthiest seeds. So you're doing great. Is this too much? 150 grams. You know, us Americans and our bad metrics. How much is 150 grams? So let me see. An ounce is what, 28.35, and so 1, 2, 3, 6 ounces or something. I don't know. The only downside of eating too many nuts is concerns about oxalate. Kidney stones. So you don't want to eat more than a cup of nuts at a time. I don't think 150 grams would be a cup. But yeah, nuts and seeds, super healthy. Go for it. Is it wise to buy vegan shampoo? Asks Alan. For what purpose? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't done shaving cream videos and I haven't done shampoo videos. So maybe there's stuff in shampoo that's bad for you, but our skin is pretty good about keeping out bad stuff. So like, in fact, someone just contacted me today asking about coconut oil on the skin, whether like using it as massage oil could be bad because coconut oil has those saturated fats. What if it gets into your bloodstream? And that only happens in infants. So you don't want to, massage infants with coconut oil because the saturated fats actually get into their bloodstream. But adult skin, in fact, even past infant skin, it doesn't get through. And so you can slather yourself with lard, with tallow, with, Crisco, hydrogenated trans fats, doesn't matter. So presumably, no matter what was in the shampoo, unless maybe there's something that gets in your eyes that's bad, but it should not get inside of you. So yeah. So if you want to wash your hair in foie gras, then you don't have to worry about, I don't know, nothing to worry about from a health standpoint, as far as I know. Okay, Larry Shearer, 6527, says that their wife and I, whole food plant-based for some time, wonderful. Oh, thanks to me, that's wonderful. I hope everything's going great. What's the typical dose of dose every week for average-sized humans? So presumably this is asking about iodine. So the healthiest iodine source are sea vegetables like dulse or arame or alaria or nori. And so trying to think some of the milder seaweeds, which are easier for kind of typical Western palates. And so, yeah, dulse is this kind of purple powder that you can sprinkle on stuff. And so I have a video talking about how much dulse you would take to get the 150 micrograms of iodine one needs every day. You don't have to take it every day because your body kind of stores it up. But that's kind of the target, particularly important for pregnant women. And so, yeah, check out the video. Just type in iodine or seaweed or dulse, and it should pop right up on NutritionFacts.org. I do a lot of nori. I've been obsessed recently with seaweed, with sushi salad. I mean, because I love, one of my favorite things to bring to a potluck. When people ask me, like, what are you really good at making or whatever? I always bring sushi to a potluck because I love making sushi. But I mean, it's such a pain. And so it makes the kitchen great. I mean, I don't know. It's a lot of work. But sushi salad, oh my God. So you just throw it all in a thing, rip up some nori and sprinkle some tahini on top. In fact, I found these squeeze bottles of tahini. Life-changing. Amazing. Actually more expensive than just buying it regular, but I'm willing to pay the price. And you think, wait a second, how could tahini be in a squeeze bottle? Doesn't it like solidify? I don't know how they do it. Whatever magic they use. But it's just one ingredient, right? Sesame seeds, but you can just drizzle it on stuff. And anyway. So, all right, making myself hungry. I'm off topic. But I remember, I think 1 or 2 sheets of nori a day gets you your daily iodine dose. There's lots of ways you get it. You can even do it. How I get it when I'm not sushi salad obsessed is in my monthly portfolio plus powder batch. And you're like, what are you talking about? It's in my cholesterol lowering book. Where I talk about all the things that can lower your cholesterol and all the kind of pills, powder, potions. And since I'm sprinkling that on my food all day, every day, I can add a certain amount of kelp, which you normally wouldn't want to do because it's too much iodine, but a tiny amount of kelp in a month batch, get all the iodine you need. And so it's an easy thing. Don't have to worry about it. Anyway, Katie Cox says, what are my thoughts on fermented dairy? Well, actually, the fermentation of dairy may help on two fronts, lowering branched chain amino acid content, as well as eating up some of the galactose, which is one of the reasons why milk consumption is associated with increased risk of premature death, hip fracture, blah, 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 in these Swedish studies, and overall mortality in a meta-analysis of all milk drinking studies. So wait a second, why would milk drinkers live shorter lives? Well, we think it's the galactose. In fact, that's one of the laboratory models of aging in animals. You give them galactose and you get all the same, organ system breakdown, cognitive dysfunction, bone loss, etc., that you get typically see in aging. And even though we are better at detoxifying galactose than rodents, the question is, are we doing it efficiently enough not to suffer similar fates? And so, so in that study, in the original Swedish study that started off the whole question about milk drinking shortening one's lifespan, they found that was only for non-fermented milk. So there was some, I forget what they call it, some soured milk drink that's very popular in Sweden. And there was not an association between hip fracture, early mortality, and that. And they were like, see, it's the galactose. The galactose gets eaten up by the fermenting bugs, and so therefore is less of a problem. So if you're going to do dairy, presumably fermented would be better. Next up, Raj 1660 says, LDL down from 147 to 118. Congratulations with diet. Fantastic. Love it. Doctor says LDL is fine. HDL too low. Your doctor needs to pick up a medical journal. We haven't for, probably 8 years considered HDL to be a causal risk factor, low HDL to be a causal risk factor for heart disease. And so, it's quite possible your doctor went to medical school. Well, even who knows what they're teaching in medical school these days. Things take so long to make it into medical practice. But if you look at all the kind of consensus statements from all the, the American Heart Association, cardiology, the ACC guidelines, American College of Cardiology, HDL is no longer considered a causal risk factor. I have videos about that. It's in some like coconut oil video where I talk about HDL, and how it's associated with having low HDL is associated with higher risk of heart disease, but there's not cause and effect. So it's like having lots of ashtrays in your house is associated with high rates of lung cancer, but it's not actually the ashtrays that are doing it. That's just it's a non-causal risk factor, and actually the true cause is the smoking. If you don't smoke and just have a lot of ashtrays, you're totally fine. And the same thing. If you have low LDL, and no matter what your HDL is, it doesn't matter. Is it true HDL can be too low? In fact, there's even studies with really high HDL in the latest biobank analysis, extremely high HDL being associated with high risk. But again, no idea if it's causal. How do we know? We do these Mendelian randomization studies where people at birth are randomized based on what sperm meets what egg, to have higher or lower, just genetically predicted set points for cholesterol, such that we can see, if people live their whole lives with high LDL, does that matter? Or low LDL? And it turns out there's these so-called longevity syndromes where people are just naturally gifted to be born with a low LDL, regardless of what they eat throughout their lives. In effect, proving, or at least one important piece of evidence proving that having low LDL is protective. Indeed, we have all sorts of studies with surgically and apheresis and drugs that lower LDL and significantly lowering rates of cardiovascular disease and death. And so that's how we know high LDL is bad, low LDL is good. But when you do those same analyses with HDL, so if you do drugs to raise your HDL, what happens? You actually die more. The drugs are pulled from the market. And similarly, if you're born with a high HDL, just naturally, you're actually not protected. And if you're born with low HDL, you're not at increased risk, showing that there's no cause and effect relationship. Don't worry about your HDL. Bottom line, don't worry about your HDL. Worry about your LDL. And I'm so glad it's down to 118, although I'd like to see it even lower. than that. Okay. Mr. Danny Agogo says, why does human breast milk contain so much saturated fat? What stage does saturated fat start to become a concern for young children? Saturated fat is actually is kind of a catch-all term for a whole bunch of different kind of molecules. There's all sorts of saturated fatty acids, and they're all kind of classed under saturated fat. So there's, myristic acid, palmitic acid, and, kind of on down the list. In fact, even short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which is actually this beneficial molecule created when you digest fiber, it's technically a saturated fat, although it only has good benefits. So we talk about saturated fats. We're talking about these long-chain saturated fats, like palmitic acid, which found predominantly in meat and dairy, but also in junk food. And that do indeed increase one's risk of heart disease. But the saturated fat in breast milk is not harmful. In fact, it has been finely tuned throughout millions of years of primate evolution to be the perfect food for our babies. And in fact, even has fiber, technically. It has these carbohydrates that we actually can't digest. You're like, wait a second, why would the mother go through all this trouble to make things that the baby can't digest? Guess who can digest it? The good gut bugs in their gut. And so it's amazing. Like the mom is feeding the good gut bugs. It's so cool. Anyway, she'd be like, yeah, but why is there fiber? Because it helps. Anyway, okay, next up. Okay, a double integral. Oh, interesting. Should metabolically at-rich individuals like pre-diabetics be concerned with glucose spikes from healthy whole plant-based meals like leaf-side sweet bowls? So what we care about is, so the reason why we look at something like hemoglobin A1C as a measure of long-term blood sugar control is what matters is, normally after a meal, blood sugar is supposed to go up. It goes up and then it gets distributed to all your tissues. We don't want it to spike too high because we don't want it then for our body to overreact and we actually dip below our baseline blood sugar levels and then release triglycerides in our blood, which can have negative consequences. So as long as we don't have that hypoglycemic dip afterwards, and as long as overall, over time, averaged over months, our blood sugar levels aren't too high, we don't have to worry about it. And so you can do that with a hemoglobin A1C, which is, how you would get diagnosed with prediabetes, for example. And if you did need to lower your blood sugars, the most critical thing is decreasing saturated fat intake, which is what is impairing your body's ability to respond naturally to insulin. And that some of that fat may be coming from your visceral fat. So if just abdominal obesity can lead to that regardless of what you eat. So weight loss, decreasing into saturated fat, and refined carbs. The floured grains, even if they're whole grains, the particle size just allows for unnaturally rapid digestion and can spike your blood sugar so high that you do actually get the hypoglycemic dip and get the triglycerides in your blood, which is a bad thing. I would not expect that to happen with something like leaf-side because it's all whole foods. Visit NutritionFacts.org/audio to see all the podcast episodes with descriptions that include links to their associated videos. Sources cited and other details are available on each video's page. Information about my books, How Not to Die, How Not to Diet, and How Not to Age, and the upcoming How Not to Hurt, and my primers on Ozempic, ultra-processed foods, and natural approaches to cholesterol lowering can be found at NutritionFacts.org/books. All proceeds from book sales that I receive go straight to charity. And sign up for our free newsletter at NutritionFacts.org/subscribe to stay updated on the latest bite-sized videos and articles. NutritionFacts.org is a science-based nonprofit, and everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorships, no kickbacks. We're strictly non-commercial, not selling anything, just put up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. Thanks for listening.